We are Stephen and Jill. Together, we've been buying and reselling land since the 90s.
Our data-centric approach leaves our buyers asking, how can you sell it so cheap?
Here on the Land Academy Show,
We answer that and more. Steve and Jill here.
Hello.
Welcome to the Land Academy Show, entertaining land investment talk. I'm Stephen Jack Butella.
And I'm Jill DeWitt, broadcasting from sweet Paradise Valley, Arizona.
Today, Jill and I talk about our favorite types of employees. These are Raves. And it's
positive.
It's hiring week, all week.
Yeah. Like employee, employer. I love that. This is going to be good. Things that we've learned that we can help you with.
Yeah. You know, and this is...
Because we've done it wrong and we've done it right.
We're getting a lot of questions from our members about how to scale their businesses up. They're buying and selling land pretty successfully, and now they want to make it a career.
They need to expand their team and hire people.
Before we get into it, let's take a question posted by one of our members on the landinvestors.com online community. It's free. And if you're already a member, please join us on Discord.
Cool. Amir wrote, "Hi guys, thanks for the endless valuable information you give. I learn something new every podcast you post. As a beginner that aims to make relatively big deals, I want to buy between $30,000 and $70,000 and sell between $90,000 and $200,000. That's my favorite. That's too, by the way. I'm wondering, should I start with 10 to 20 small deals, like buy in $3,000 and sell in the $10,000 range and then scale to the bigger ones? Or should I get familiar with the big ones right on my first mailer? Thanks in advance, Amir." You want to go first?
Yeah, a lot of people had a lot to say, starting with our moderator, Kevin.
Okay.
Kevin, I can't thank you enough, by the way. And they all said, go small first. And I agree. I don't necessarily think you need to. And it's not because... Here's why. There's two reasons. Number one, you're going to make some mistakes. Everybody does. The earlier you make the mistakes, the faster you're going to be successful. So you want to do that on smaller deals. You don't want to lose a lot of money.
You're not going to sweat about it.
Yeah, I'm not necessarily saying you're going to lose money, but you might not do a deed right, or you might not respond to a seller the right way, or there's just little things that happen.
Really, like that stuff you can solve regardless of the deal, but what if you bought one wrong? I don't know. You overpaid for one. Big deal. So that's my usual thing. Get the 10 out of the way. If they're 10 smaller ones and 9 of them are great, and one you're like, I totally screwed up, and shoot, technically I lost money on that one, or I broke even on that one, but that's okay because the other 9 make up for that one. And now you got it. And
then my second and final point, which is, I think, incredibly important, is you need to find out if this is for you.
True.
So this isn't for everybody. It's a lot of work. It's extremely rewarding. I think it's a lot of fun. Mm-hmm. You know, you might find out this is just no fun.
We are weird.
I know. Yes, Land Academy is a group full of weird people.
Yes.
That enjoy buying real estate and selling it for more. You get high off of it, actually. There's another question here later in the week. Yeah. Where we talk about the deal high.
Can I pause for just a second here? Because this is so good. Because, you know, we sometimes talk about this differently. We really have told people like, hey, you know, go for it. Whatever you want to do, you can just go for it. So there's no real wrong answer here. If you want to just dive in, go for the bigger deals, you feel real comfortable with them, and do deal funding. Because then you have a second pair of eyes too, kind of guiding you and watching and making sure you make some good selections. That's not crazy also. So I know people that do that very successfully. I'm not even messing with the little ones. And I like that you're going for not buy for 300, because those are painful. There's the smaller deals, and the smaller, when I say smaller, I don't mean size, I mean by money. When you're dealing with people that spend $5,000 to $10,000 for a property versus $50,000 to $100,000 for a property, you know, it's a different customer, and they're different, and it's much easier. It's like selling a car off Craigslist for $3,000. We all know what kind of person that's going to attract, you know, and it's the same with property. So you're buy it, you know, 3,000, sell for 10. That's already better. That's already better than buying for 300 and selling for 1,000, because a lot of people start there, and that might make them, you know, not be as excited about this too. Like, what? These are the kind of buyers that are out there? I'm like, no, they're not all like that. I promise. When you up your numbers, it's a different person. So
Yeah, all you got to do is attend the Thursday call, Amir, and you'll see the types of deals. We have this thing called "Would you do this deal?"
right.
If you attend, please attend those or watch the recordings as a member. I know
There's
you just
so much
I know you
information.
just joined. I saw you. I saw your whole welcome thing in Discord.
Cool.
So make sure you watch those Thursday calls or the recordings, because we review anybody's deal that's in the group, and you'll see the types of deals and the things that we bring up. Like, hey, this is a great deal, we think, but you might want to make sure you do this, 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 and this. And so you want to make sure you do these things correctly in the beginning so it doesn't discourage you. Jill's right.
Mm-hmm. Thanks.
Today's topic, our favorite types of employees, our raves. This is the meat of the show.
All right.
I'm going to go back to the kindergarten on this. Plays well with others.
Whole plays.
Courteous and kind.
Our people said the notes are the good ones, our favorites, and that type that work well together. So I have to think about. No, seriously, I got to think about this for a second. Who was your favorite employee of all?
This is
you
like
have one?
answering who's my favorite kid.
I know.
Of the 3 children.
Do you have a favorite? You don't have to name names. Don't name names because they're going to listen.
Oh.
So do you have a favorite on our staff?
No, I don't. That's the truth.
Really? That's interesting. My favorite changes. Like the children. Sometimes we're on the same page, sometimes we're not on the same page. So, but I love them all in their own unique ways. You know what? It's like, for me, employees become, and that's just who we are. Our employees kind of become part of the family. And I love that. So I look at them a little bit like that.
Well, you have to decide what kind of employer you want to be before you can answer this question. So we happen to be, and Jill and I, for the most part, we are on the same page now. But when we started working together, we were not. Jill's very, very vocal about everyone's equal. They need to be treated fairly. And I don't disagree with that, but I do believe they have to be accountable.
Sure.
And so what ended up happening is we kind of met in the middle, and accountability and performance became the metric. And then we massively reward them for that. Mm-hmm. And so just through attrition, hiring and people leaving or us letting them go, we have a group now of people that are completely and totally autonomous. They all work at home. They all hit their numbers. I mean, daily, every single day and every single month, sales numbers and production numbers and all of that. Mm-hmm. And we got to buy a certain amount of property every month. We have to sell a certain amount. Mm-hmm. Dollars and transactions. Yeah. And the group that we have now does that without our involvement. So autonomy and accountability is my favorite type of employee.
That's the hardest thing.
And it's tough to find people like that.
That is. That are kind of, they're, so the good ones and my favorite ones are the ones that are self-motivated. That's it. They don't need me every day telling them you're doing a good job, or me every day checking in going, what are you working on today? And saying, yep, that's good. No, that's not good. And that part is hard to find. So you have to, there's an internal talent, an internal part of them that has their own drive, number one. And then the second part is training them to what you're looking for. They might think they're doing a great job because every day they do X. And you're like, that's not what I hired you for. I need you to do Y.
I mean, here's a great example. The person on our staff who runs marketing, he started, we hired 3 or 4 people all together. I'm in charge of marketing. Oh. We hired several people all at the same time with the thinking that somebody's going to rise to the top, and it's this guy. And
actually, that was a pretty good idea you had, by the way. We had 2 guys.
This is years ago.
We narrowed it down, and you said hire them both. Mm-hmm. I'm like, oh, that's pretty smart.
But over the course of time, we've had a lot of people in that position, and this person is by far the best. And he daily, I'm a huge fan of click-through rate, CTR, and cost per click. Mm-hmm. Whether you're selling real estate or you're selling water heaters, those things are imperative. And he consistently achieves a 5% click-through rate and a cost per click that's below $1. Mm-hmm. Actually, it's closer to 30 cents. I mean, this has been years now. On a daily basis, he achieves this without my involvement. So that's the kind of employee. That's my favorite type of employee. And honestly, we don't have a bad employee right now. Mm-hmm. We'll talk about that tomorrow, but yeah. I couldn't be more proud of the group that we have now. And we're at a point now, for the first time in my career, where the people that are working there are hiring people below them. Yeah. And they're doing it because they can get along with those people.
Right.
And so we don't have to do it now. And that's a luxury.
Yeah. They know what they need. So that's one of the things that we do right out of the gate too, is you've got to be real clear with employees and tell them really what you want. Maybe create an SOP. So I'm talking to you right now, thinking about hiring your first person. How's it going to go? Whatever the position is, please almost have a manual to hand them so they know exactly what they need to do every day. That's going to A, make your life better, and B, what you're looking for. They do want to please you. They want to do a good job. So, and then as they show up on day one and they're looking over your checklist of here's the 10 things that I'm hiring you to do right now. Of course, it's going to grow and it's going to change. They should take that 10 list and build it out. And it's going to be 20. And it's going to be that 10 things have 3 things under each one about specifically how you want it done. And you really have to let them run with that. And I always tell everybody when you're hiring, hey, as I hire you, I want you to think about who your replacement's going to be, because if this goes well, you're going to need help.
We're going to ask you to replace yourself and move you up.
And move you up.
And so there's some people that don't respond to that. And we're going to actually address these topics throughout the week.
Because as a land person, you're running your own land business right now.
Yeah.
And you're going to need help. And the whole goal and the whole reason that you're hiring help right now is you can't keep up with your own deals, which is the best problem to have. So you're hiring right now because you want to do more deals. So as you do more deals, now you're going to need 3 people. Now you're going to need 4 people, and so on.
I'm going to say this throughout the week.
What?
Test. You need your people, whoever you decide to hire, or through your hiring process, they need to take an Excel test. They need to take some version of a personality test, because the job that you're hiring, I don't even say that in a joking manner.
I know. It's just funny because
here's an example.
That's what we've learned.
Here's an example. Jill.
Yeah.
Jill is on the phone in Jill's perfect work day. She's on the phone for 4 to 6 hours and maybe 2 hours on the computer. And so she's in her office and her door's closed, and it sounds like she's talking to her girlfriends from high school. That's what her business conversations are like with buyers and sellers.
That's how I Jillify it.
So in the beginning, I'm like, gosh, she's just screwing around all day. And then I really started to listen. Oh. And she's talking to sellers and making friends with them. So, and that we took, for the first time, Jill and I took personality tests. Maybe it was the first time for me. I think you've done it before. Mm-hmm. And what I found out is that is in her personality makeup. And if she doesn't do that, she doesn't feel fulfilled. She doesn't feel like that workday was really valuable. If I had that job, I would fail at it. I can't stand talking on the phone to sellers and buyers. I can do it for a while, but if I had to do it after 4 weeks, I would quit. Mm-hmm. And so I'm in a dark room. I'm a data person. So it's you can't hire somebody for Jill's job that has my personality score, is my point. Because they're going to fail. You need to.
He's an 8.
And there's nothing.
I'm a 7.
There's nothing that any HR person would ever say that is wrong about that.
Right.
No, you're not being judged or anything. You're taking a test, and let's just see if you're a phone person or not. Let's just. Mm-hmm. It doesn't come out like that. There's and there's a lot of tests like this. Mm-hmm. So I look back on. We're going to talk about tomorrow. Employees we can do without is what it's called, and we'll talk about. We just hired the wrong people for that job. Mm-hmm. It's not
their fault.
Yeah, exactly. I'm happy you could join us today.
5 days a week, you can find us right here on the Land Academy Show.
Tomorrow, the episode is called on the Land Academy show is called "Employees We Can Live Without."
This will be fun. You
are not alone in your real estate ambition.
It's going to be a little bit of a rant, is what the notes from our employees say, like, let her rip.
I get emails and notes from members and non-members that say, Jack, we love when you rant. I didn't even know that was possible. Oh. So let her rip.
That's going to be funny. Hey, if you need access to any sort of ownership or property details, including owner phone numbers and FEMA flood map overlays, check out neighborscoop.com. Created by investors, that's us, for investors like you.
We're Steve and Jill. Information
and inspiration
to buy undervalued property.
We hope you find our content valuable and we appreciate your support. If you have not already, please check out our channel and hit the subscribe button.
And your comments and suggestions help us to create the content you're here for. Hitting the like button helps to support our channel's algorithm and gauge your interest for future shows.